Imagine Egypt, a land of golden sands, gods, and pharaohs, where power was seized. Cleopatra was born into this world, a scholar, strategist, and heir to a fading dynasty. From childhood, she learned survival in a palace thick with intrigue. She inherited a kingdom threatened by Rome. Cleopatra knew the old ways wouldn't save her people. To survive, she had to become a legend. At 18, she faced Rome's might with only her intellect and courage. She was determined to outwit the world's greatest empire. She was preparing to save her kingdom. The world would remember her for her brilliance. Cleopatra's ascent was a masterclass in survival. She was ready to challenge the armies of Rome. Her reign would change history. This was the dawn of a queen. The royal court of Alexandria was a labyrinth of secrets and shifting alliances. For Cleopatra, it was both a classroom and a battlefield. She watched her father, Ptolemy XII, struggle against Roman influence and internal betrayal. Her siblings were her fiercest rivals, especially her brother Ptolemy XIII, a puppet for ambitious courtiers. Cleopatra's intelligence and ambition made her a target. Exile or death was always a possibility, but danger forged her resolve. She immersed herself in the great library, mastering history, science, and philosophy. She learned 9 languages, not for curiosity but as tools of diplomacy and power. While others schemed, she armed herself with knowledge. She became a master of reading intentions, saying what others wanted to hear while pursuing her own goals. The palace was her stage, and she learned to project power even when she felt powerless. Her first monumental goal: outmaneuver her own family and claim her rightful throne. Every day was a test of wit and will. Cleopatra's education was not just academic, it was survival. She learned to manipulate, to perform, to lead. The game for the throne was ruthless, but Cleopatra was ready. She would not be outplayed. The battle for Egypt's future had begun. She was determined to win. The game was on. Julius Caesar, the world's most powerful man, arrived in Egypt as Cleopatra's brother held the throne. Cleopatra, exiled and outnumbered, needed a bold move. She had herself smuggled into Caesar's presence, hidden in a rug. Unrolled before him, she emerged not as a supplicant, but as a queen reclaiming her destiny. This was not seduction. It was a calculated display of courage and intellect. She spoke to Caesar in his own language, discussing politics and strategy. She impressed him with her mind, not just her presence. Cleopatra offered stability for Egypt and value for Rome, far more than her brother could. Caesar saw in her a peer, an equal in ambition and cunning. By morning, she had secured his support. The rug was more than a trick. It was a symbol of her strategy turned weakness into strength. Seize the narrative. Cleopatra's first great victory was not won on a battlefield, but in a single, unforgettable encounter. She proved she could outthink and outmaneuver even the greatest of Rome. Her alliance with Caesar changed the course of history. She reclaimed her throne, not by force, but by brilliance. Cleopatra's legend grew. She had shown the world and Rome that she was a force to be reckoned with. Her reign was secured for now. But the game was far from over. Every move was a gamble. Every victory, a step closer to her ultimate goal. Cleopatra had learned to control the stage. She would never let go of that power. Egypt had its queen. Rome had met its match. The world watched in awe. Cleopatra's gamble had paid off. The legend continued. Years later, Mark Antony summoned Cleopatra to Tarsus, expecting a vassal. Cleopatra refused to play that part. She arrived on a golden barge, sails of purple, oars of silver, dressed as Venus, goddess of love. The spectacle was overwhelming. Perfumes, music, and myth. Antony was left waiting, outshone by her entrance. She set the terms, making him come to her. The feast she hosted was legendary, a display of Egypt's wealth and sophistication. Cleopatra showed Antony that Egypt was not a prize, but a civilization. This was psychological warfare, not romance. She seduced not just a man, but an empire. She presented herself as a living goddess, offering Antony an alliance with divinity and power. Their partnership was about strategy, not just passion. Cleopatra's performance was flawless. She made Egypt irresistible. The world saw her as more than a queen. She was the embodiment of her nation's glory. This was not about love. It was about survival and dominance. Cleopatra's mastery of spectacle secured her place beside Antony. Together, they challenged Rome. The stakes had never been higher. Cleopatra was at the height of her power. Cleopatra's true power was not in her looks, but in the image she crafted. Coins show a strong, determined woman, not a Hollywood beauty. Her legendary beauty routines were tools of statecraft, not vanity. Bathing in donkey milk, using coal for her eyes, and creating unique perfumes. All were symbols of wealth, magic, and authority. Her presence was unforgettable. Her scent announced her before she entered a room. Cleopatra became a living goddess, a brand, an icon. She turned ordinary elements into extraordinary symbols of power. Her image was her armor and her weapon. In a world of male warriors, she wielded femininity and intellect as her greatest strengths. The legend of her beauty was really the legend of her illusion. She mastered the art of perception. Cleopatra was more than human. She was myth in motion. Her image endures because she made it so. Were Cleopatra's relationships with Caesar and Antony love stories? Perhaps. But they were, above all, political alliances. Romance was a tool, passion, a strategy. With Caesar, she secured her throne and bore him a son, Caesarion, a living link between Rome and Egypt. With Antony, she gained a powerful ally and protector for her kingdom. Their love affairs were the glue for military and economic alliances. Every feast, every gift, every child was a calculated move. Cleopatra was never swept away by passion. Her head always ruled her heart. She used every resource to protect Egypt. Her seductions were acts of diplomacy. Beneath the tales of romance were negotiations for survival. Cleopatra's heart may have been involved, but her mind was always in command. She played the game of love as skillfully as the game of thrones. Her relationships shaped empires, but her true love was always Egypt. She was a queen first, a lover second. Her legacy was built on strategy, not sentiment. Cleopatra's power went far beyond her relationships. She ruled Egypt for over 2 decades, bringing peace and prosperity while the Mediterranean burned with war. She reformed the currency, stabilized the economy, and managed grain reserves to prevent famine. The people saw her as a true pharaoh, not just a foreign queen. She commanded fleets and understood military strategy. Cleopatra was a hands-on leader, politician, diplomat, and commander-in-chief. Her vision was bold. An Eastern empire, blending Greek, Egyptian, and Roman cultures, ruled from Alexandria. She sold this dream to Antony, a shared destiny, a new world order. Every alliance, every child, every maneuver was part of her grand design. Cleopatra played for the highest stakes, not just survival, but empire. Her ambition defined her reign. She was not content to be Rome's client queen. She aimed to be empress of a new world. Her leadership was her true legacy. Cleopatra's power was real, and it changed history. She was more than a lover. She was a ruler, and she played to win. The end came at Actium. Defeat by Octavian shattered Cleopatra's dream of empire. She and Antony retreated to Alexandria, besieged and outnumbered. Their final act unfolded in Cleopatra's mausoleum, a stage for her last mystery. Tradition says Antony, believing her dead, fell on his sword and died in her arms. Cleopatra, after a final meeting with Octavian, chose her own end, an asp's bite, a pharaoh's death. But was it suicide or assassination disguised as tragedy? Octavian had every reason to see her gone. The truth is lost to history. Roman sources wrote the story. Cleopatra died on her golden couch, her handmaidens beside her. The cause of death remains unproven. Her end is an enigma, fueling her legend. The locked mausoleum keeps its secrets. Cleopatra's final act ensured her immortality. Cleopatra's death did not end the war. It shifted to history's pages. Octavian, now Augustus, launched a campaign to destroy her legacy. Roman propaganda recast her as a temptress, erasing her achievements. Her intelligence became manipulation, her ambition a threat. For centuries, she was remembered for beauty and romance, not for scholarship or leadership. The real Cleopatra, scholar, reformer, commander, was buried beneath myth. Roman propaganda was devastatingly effective. Her true story was replaced by caricature. When we think of Cleopatra, do we see the woman or the myth? She was complex, flawed, and remarkable. She matched wits with the world's most powerful men and sometimes won. Her story reminds us, History is written by the victors, but legends endure because they challenge us to seek the truth. Cleopatra's legacy is not just what she did, but how she is remembered, and her story is far from over.